You touched on this earlier, but Ollie Durham was wondering, so you're mostly a boat rider. He's wondering how you got the idea and like how you made Wake the City happen. So you touched on it earlier, so you can kind
of. First of all, shout out Ollie because he's the first guy that ever took me. Like, I was riding in a junior pro tour comp or whatever, and he just comes up to me and he's like, "Hey, would you like to go to dinner with me tonight? We'll go to dinner and we'll chat about like a bunch of stuff." So like, first person to ever, like, first pro to ever, like, you know, just take the time and just come and grab a bite to eat and talk about, you know, a little bit about life and, you know, about things. And shout out Ollie. But I mean, the idea behind Wake the City, first of all, we wanted to have, you know, you have like Wake Lab, Double or Nothing. Like, they made so many cool things happen. And like, you know, Monster pulling back on wakeboarding and stuff like that. I feel like we needed a brand like Red Bull or something to do a big event that like motivates the riders to come ride and to do something a little different, and also outside the regular contest, you know, one lap done, right? So we wanted to create a fun event that it wasn't about just the most technical trick. It was more about like the flow, how you, like, you know, can ride with your partner, and just something a little tricky and a little different that could make results even be different, right? And especially by being in Italy and try to obviously grow the sport there as well. Yeah. So that was a big thing as well. And to actually come and find out that Red Bull Wake the City was the most profitable event for Red Bull Italy, it's a pretty cool thing. And like, you know, like we wanna go big and we wanna keep making it happen. So finger crossed, there'll be some pretty cool news.
Hell yeah. Okay. We'll stay in touch on that one. Jack is wondering, we were talking about Jack Shep. He's got two questions. One is, you've traveled all over the world. You've been to tons of airports. Which is your favorite Delta Sky Club, and why is it in Wisconsin?
Oh, my favorite Delta Sky.
He's saying your favorite's Wisconsin. So
his favorite is Wisconsin.
He's saying your favorite is Wisconsin.
Sky Club?
Yeah.
I don't remember in Wisconsin.
I didn't know they had one. I've never been to the one in Wisconsin.
I mean, now that I'm thinking about it, I can't really remember. But he's
a hometown hero. He's from Wisconsin. Yeah. That's probably why I'm saying it.
I think my favorite Delta Sky Club, it's got to be Atlanta Terminal F.
Atlanta? I guess I've
wait. When we went to Portugal, we went through Boston. Oh, Boston. Boston's got a dope new one. It's humongous.
Yeah.
It's really big.
Okay.
It's really big. So yeah, I would have to say Boston.
Yeah, take a back seat, Wisconsin, Jack. All right, he's got a second question is, you've had a lot of long days on the boat without bathroom breaks. Have you ever come across any clever bathroom solutions while out on the boat? And he says, shout out my man, Danny. I don't know what he's talking about.
Oh, my God. Well, yeah, there's a couple great photos of me taking a dump in the back of the boat in the I think it was the North Florida Loop that we did with Bear and Red Bull. So yeah, I had to go. So I did one off the back of the boat, and it happened to me that I've done one while riding. I took a pretty bad a little butt, out. Yeah, a little butt like scratch, and literally like a bunch of water went in. I was like, I gotta go. So while I was riding, pulled down my pants and let it go. But talking about poop and shitty jokes, I did one really cool joke in my whole, one prank in my whole life that I'm really proud of. And that's towards a friend of mine, Keenan Allen, that he actually punched me in the face 6 months after I told him. But we found a little cat. JB O'Neill is coming to stay with us all the time and whatever. We found this little cat. His name was Boogie. He was all black. And so we have him in the house or whatever. And Keenan used to have this bathroom where his toilet was here, and there was a window right here. And this window that you open up, like, had a little piece of carpet where the cat will go outside and take a little poops on it. So one day, Keenan, he's gone. He's at Lake Ronix. I'm home by myself. I ran out of toilet paper, and I go into Keenan's bathroom to take a dump. I sit down, and I turn around, and I see a bunch of little poops. And I was like, what if I go and take a dump on that little piece of carpet, and I do a big log? And then, like, next thing you know, Keenan is going to go into the bathroom and see that big log, and he's going to be, guys, look what the cat did. So then I did a couple, like, I did it. I didn't tell nobody. I just kept it to myself. I did it and, like, never heard anything. So then a couple days later, I did another one. And I did another one. And then basically, you know, I kind of even forgot that I did this joke. And then we move out the house. And then, like, I think 6 months later, I was like, yo, don't you remember Boogie? Like, I tell him, like, 6 months later, like, you remember Boogie? Like, dude, he used to take some big-ass poops, huh? I was like, what? He's like, wait, what? How do you know? Like, I was like, no, I'm just joking, Keenan. You know, I pooped on your balcony for, like, two or three times, you know, to see if you would have saw it. And he got so mad. He goes, I had to clean all that up. Yeah, it was really funny. It was one of my long-term jokes that turned out the best, probably. I probably deserved also this smack in the face.
Yeah, but it's worth it.
Yeah,
it's worth it.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
All right, we got Alex Albach. He's wondering, I mean, obviously you touched on this quite a bit, but what's the main difference between living in the United States and living in Europe? Pros and cons of both.
Well, I think the pros, like, on the wakeboarding side of things, like, you know what I mean? Like, over here, like, everybody's a little bit more tapped in. Like, you can do a lot more things and get together with, you know, all the big guys, all the big brands, you know, they're here, like, obviously working and being and doing things close to the brands over in America. It's got a pretty big impact, and we know that. But honestly, like, dude, living here in the States with the food wise, and, you know, some of the vibes are kind of could throw you a little bit off. Like, I almost have a feeling that in America sometimes, like, a lot of people, like, come up to you or they ask you for things just because they want something in return. You know what I mean? I feel like they're a little bit more like, they want opportunities, you know, like, yeah. I feel like, you know what I mean? If somebody asks you something, it's because they want something from you. And while in Europe, like, there's a little bit more of a different connection and more of a, you know, like, hey, hey, how you doing? Or they just kind of check up on you, like, and then, you know, I had
wholesome. They're not expecting anything back.
They're not expecting everything back. Like, you know what I mean? Like, the spaces are a lot smaller too. So, like, for me to go to Germany, it's like, you know, a 4-hour car ride, you know, or, you know, to be tapped in with some of the other riders is a lot easier. I feel like moving around in Europe, it's a lot easier and a lot more efficient. While over here, if you want to go hang out with one of your friends, you might have to take, like, you know, a 3-hour flight or whatever, or, like.
Yeah, it's big.
So
big
it's like, I think, like, that's pretty big. Obviously, food wise, it's pretty tough to stay on a pretty good health kick over here, and you gotta chef it up. Thankfully, I'm not bad in the kitchen. But yeah, I think that would be the most, like, the biggest difference a little bit. Like, also, America is like the kind of land of the free, man. Like, you could do whatever you want. Like, in Europe, we have so many rules on, like, trailers, and so many, like, some lakes you can't even ride, like, put a big boat in, like, because the motor's too big, or because, like, some lakes are just like natural reserves or something like that. So, like, I think U.S. is a lot more accessible, but I think the lifestyle and, you know, and everything, it's a little bit better in Europe for sure. Okay. And I miss Europe every day. I miss Europe every day. Just my close friends, my fam, you know, that's something that I miss. And I think, like, you know, I'll never move away from Italy. Like, I would always have a place in Italy.
Always got the roots in Italy.
For sure.
Love it. Last one. We got David O.C.
Davo, what up, Davo?
This is the first. He's been a Patreon since the very beginning, member, and this is the first time he's asked a question. So I don't know if he just happened to check the Patreon when you came on, or if he's just been waiting for Massi.
Dude, Dave was a good friend of mine. My mom, when I was like 16 years old, she would send me to Ireland because IWWF used to do some sick like World Cups, and it was like 15,000 for first place, and like even 20th place get like $2,600. No, or like $1,600.
Yeah.
So like, if you're invited to this contest, you're making $1,600, and if you have a flight for like 500, all the rest is like cash that you can keep. So like, I was too young to travel by myself, so my mom would send me to Ireland because Dave was one of the only guys that I knew that would come to Europeans and stuff like that. So I would go and hang out with Dave, and then depart with Dave, and yeah.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, it was sick.
He's wondering. This is an interesting one. We see the vast majority of dominant boat riders from the USA or Australia, mostly. Do you think it was an advantage or disadvantage for you being from Italy?
I think it was just. I think it's. I don't know. You could look at it like both ways. Like, you know, I think my cousin being the best in Italy, it got me fired up. Like even up to this day, like he's my favorite. Like he's just. I wish he could still ride and he would go out and just shred and have a good time. He doesn't anymore. But I just, you know, I wanted to make a little bit of a mark just because he quit, you know. And I always think of like how sick would have been if like my cousin would have stayed in the sport and we would have gotten to travel together, or he could have been there and like helped me out or whatever. But at the end of the day, like the most important thing is like surround yourself but with good people. And people that can always teach you something. And like, I was so blessed to be surrounded by so many amazing people that like inspired me every single day. And like, obviously, being from Italy, I think it's like almost like a pro because like we have the federation. We had something that worked. We brought like a sick team together, and look at the youngins that are coming out of like the team right now that they're like pretty good and motivated.
Ripping, dude.
Like ripping.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think it's like, I think it was like a bit of a pro, like not having anybody that had come out of Italy and like try to do it like the full way, because that was always been my dream. Like I remember right now, at like my wakeboard school, I would ask my friend Nico and them like, hey, yo, what do you guys want to do when you grow up? And they would answer me like, oh, I'll probably take over my dad's business or something. And I would be like, what? You don't want to wakeboard for a living? Like, dude, I used to remember like photos of like Jacob Valdez on the like Hyperlight, like, you know, gear guide, like the gear guide or the gear book or whatever. And like, dude, and I was like, dude, this kid is probably like almost my age and he's already like in Hyperlight shoots and stuff like that. Like, how sick is that? And then I obviously came over to the States and like became best friends with Jacob. Like, I love Jacob. Like, he was one of my favorite riders for a long, long time, you know? And, yeah, that was always, like, I've always dreamed of, like, wakeboard for a living and, like, do it, like, the full way. So,
Love it.
Pretty pumped.
Didn't know you went back with David O.C., dude.
Yeah, dude. We go back. We go way back. We go way, way back.